Vivian Bryant-Taukiri was a pioneer in the experiential marketing space, founding Brand Spanking well over 20 years ago. Interesting business name and some very interesting business experiences. There was you at a show promoting wood wearing lycra.
Oh, yeah.
But before getting there, she had some really fascinating side hustles.
I think I did like a show as Virginia Slayer, the love, sex and relationship counselor.
Her business was an inherently people business, and so the experiences were delivered by humans, which taught her some really valuable lessons.
Sometimes people just fall off a cliff and sometimes they have bad days and that sort of thing. And I definitely think at times I feel like we were probably judged on the way we reacted to fixing a problem more than anything else.
Every business has a COVID story, but for Brand Spanking, that story was a nightmare.
At that point, when your company's currency is experiences and the world shuts down all of its experiences and there is no touching anybody or talking to anyone or being even close to anyone, it's like, that's it. I think that was probably the point where...
This too shall pass, and ultimately they had the opportunity to scale back up again. But then, what happened?
So there was a lot of overcoming this mental fear of oh no, who would want to do that? And also everyone had been kind of sitting around doing nothing, so no one wanted to work.
Winston Churchill said, never waste a good crisis. So they put this one to work.
Have we run out of steam? Have we got any more in us? Where's the juice? Does it need somebody that brings in that passion and drives it forward?
Not ordinarily religious, Vivian, despite that, had one really critical moment.
It was interesting because that's when we had that come to Jesus moment, I guess we were like, well, this could be it for us. This could be the end of us and our partnership and the company as such. But we had one.
Vivian Bryant-Taukiri, welcome to the show.
Josh Comrie, thank you for having me.
It's so great to have you here.
It's a pleasure.
So I've been trying to think of a clever opening to this conversation that kind of ties in the experiential marketing piece, which is obviously your background, and we'll get to that. But all I can think of is that it's a brand spanking new episode.
Oh, nice.
Pretty tragic. Pretty tragic. But what is the best and or the worst ever product that you've had to promote before?
Oh my gosh, best and worst. This is so great. That is an interesting one. Oh, there's been so many good products, so many great products that I've really loved that are just so perfect. You're like, oh, I love this product. It's super easy to promote a good product, right? None of them actually come to mind right now, but we do a lot of work for Dyson and things like that who have exceptional products and love working for them, premium brand. Everything makes sense with them. It's kind of, right at always the hottest stuff that's out right now. And that's always great. Love doing that sort of thing. The worst stuff.
Well, you were showing me through a photo album before we kicked into the episode.
I did.
And there was you at a show promoting wood wearing lycra.
Oh, yeah.
And so the agency's called Brand Spanking, and there's some attractive women wearing lycra promoting wood.
Well, yes.
A little bit risque.
Yes. Well, we tried not to talk about the wood too much, the spanking part of it.
Quite technical as well, right?
It was a technical job, actually, too. Definitely not the worst one I've done. I feel like it was potentially one of the feminine hygiene products that was probably the most challenging products to kind of, get people behind to trial and sample. Maybe that was probably
Yeah.
But hey.
Let's talk about specifics. So experiential marketing, for those that don't know, what is it?
Yes, this is a good question. I get asked this quite a lot, and it really is, I guess, it's the design and concept and the bringing to life an experience between the brand and its customer. And that has to be done in a way where you do it maybe at the right time. We kind of call it the right time and the right place. So it's when the customer is going to be in the right mindset to kind of experience that brand and have a really lasting experience with it, that they're going to take away from that. Oh my God, that changed me, did something, that experience. I either smelt it or I touched it, I saw it or I heard something, or sometimes you bring all of those senses in together to really bring it to life. And then if you have all those touch points, it becomes a memory, a fond memory for that person that then has a relationship with that brand or that product, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that relationship stuff in between there. Yeah. It's the best way I can explain it, I guess.
Yeah. In simple, practical terms, for those that are trying to connect that up with something that they might have come across in the
Yeah.
real world, it's going to the airport and someone offering a sample of a perfume or a drink,
Yeah.
all the way through to trade shows,
Yeah.
to events that happen at sporting events, that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Anything
It
in
can be
between.
like festivals. We're there at festivals and we might be doing a pop-up in a mall, for instance, for a product where you can come and experience that product in the mall. We've done lots of like technology brands and that sort of thing. So it's like, we might pop up and like help you out and like charge your phone at a 3-day festival or something like that, and then talk about like technology or the technology brand at that point where we've built that opportunity to have that moment.
Yes.
Or it can be like you're in the supermarket and someone's offering you a sample of, I don't know, maybe like a pomegranate or something. And you're like, oh, a pomegranate. How do they work? I'm not sure how to even open a pomegranate. What parts do you eat?
What is it?
What do you use it for? That sort of thing, and they're like showing you that this is how you open it. This is how you extract, the pomegranate seeds. And this is when you might put them on your salad or something.
Yeah,
So
well,
it's all that sort of thing. They would have been, I think everybody would have touched on that at some point and seen someone doing it or experienced it, hopefully.
yes.
Mm.
So you started the business 23, 24 years ago.
Yes.
How much and in what way has the experiential marketing industry changed from then to now?
Oh my God, where do I start? But first of all, we just have to address the Lycra thing. Back in the day, there was so much Lycra. Like, I don't know how many times it would be like a one-piece Lycra zip up the front outfit.
Sounds
You at
terrible.
the casino or something like that. Yeah. Grid Girls, I think we saw that in the album before as well. Lots of Lycra everywhere. I guess it was like a little bit of it was definitely more like a sex sells kind of a thing, I guess. And there was definitely that element to it. Like, let's get some promo girls to work for Performance Car Magazine or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then nowadays, I think the industry has changed. I think people have changed and we've become a whole lot more aware of like exploitation and that sort of thing. And, that possibly doesn't sell things anymore either. So the industry's changed, people have changed, like we've all changed a little bit. And now there's not much Lycra for a start. Also, I think there's so many more metrics wrapped around it now that you turn up in places and it's all about the measurement of that, the sentiment of it. What does the audience think? What does the customer feel? What do they like? What do they not like? That sort of thing as well. So there's much more like metrics and capture around that sort of thing and using that data, I guess, moving forward as well. So it's become quite a different beast, I guess, and which is why you'd say the industry's grown up, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think about I totally understand and agree with the principle that the over-sexualizing nature of how things were one day
Mm.
was probably quite inappropriate for particularly the person, the individual that's responsible for the promoting, right? Because you're there because you look good and you've got a nice figure and, those things
Yeah.
are on display to attract the bee to the honey, so to
Yes,
speak.
exactly.
So, but it works.
It does work. And you just do it differently now.
Right.
Now it's like done in a different way where, as I think I mentioned before, you turn up where you're there to kind of help out or like solve a problem or to be helpful to somebody. Like we do wayfinding, I think, with Auckland Transport for events and things like that. And that's just like a person that they know they can find who's like, oh, if you want to get here or there, or you want to get to this event, if it's Symphony or something like that, you go through here. And it's like wayfinding. So it's like coming up with a solution or being helpful or that sort of thing. It's like totally all different kind of stuff happening now, which is not, you don't need to be wearing Lycra, obviously, for that. And you don't need to be like
Unless you
attracting the
want to.
opposite sex either.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, isn't it? Yeah, and that sort of thing is more, that's what we do, isn't it? Everyday kind of thing.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah. Do you think that there was, I don't think that there was, by the way, any stigma that was attached to doing this. So a lot of my female friends, you have an agency, we've known each other for 25 years now. My wife, Tina, did quite a lot of her friends were in and around the promo girl kind of space. It was lucrative. It was always super fun. They ended up with a whole bunch of free things around the outside of it, products as well, typically.
Yeah.
A couple of dates here and there
Yeah,
about
never
as
know.
well. Do you think there was any stigmatizing that might have happened outside of the industry for those that didn't know?
I think potentially there would have been, especially if you were turning up and say, for instance, the casino or it's, Formula One or something like, some kind of racing event or that sort of thing, and depending on how you were looking at it as well. And I definitely think there was that for sure. And I think that we've overcome that now. I don't think there is a real stigma around it at all anymore. I think that changed probably 10 to 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there any unusual requests that you had from people? It could be inappropriate. Was there any inappropriate requests you
I
had from prospect clients?
feel like there's definitely been a few, not in the last 10 years, but maybe before that, where they've wanted to do things that I've felt morally, I don't think that's the best way to like go about it. And it may more have been like, I feel like you're taking advantage of something, or people at a certain time or place, like maybe it was around alcohol or something like that. And I was like, that's probably maybe not where the space I want to really be in for this sort of thing either. I don't think that's, or anything like that. But I mean, and sometimes we were promoting things during like when we were coming out of COVID, I think, and those things were more like we were doing sprays for masks and that sort of thing to help sterilize masks so people could use their masks and stuff like that.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That's fine with all that sort of thing. But yeah, it's nothing really. I guess I've never probably said no to anything, but I've maybe said, how about we do it like this?
Let's soften that up a little bit, or maybe we do this other thing.
I feel like that's not going to land very well, or that sort of thing. So how about we tweak it and make it more like we're doing it like this?
Yes.
Maybe we're not going to wear that. Maybe we're going to wear this instead.
Yes, yes.
I think it did change, but then I think potentially we adapted with the kind of people that we were hiring for brand ambassadors, like their background and things like that. And because it's definitely become more of a like key to, I think, have the right ambassador in front of the right people.
Hey, it's Josh. Thanks for being part of the show. Most founders don't just build one thing. They build many. The company, the team, and hopefully the legacy. JB Were in New Zealand understands that your exit isn't an ending. It's the bridge to what you build next. Whether that's backing the next generation, funding what matters, or creating impact that compounds across decades. The best exits aren't measured in commas alone. They're measured in what those commas enable. 2 Commas is proudly partnered with JB Were, building wealth that works as hard as you do. Yes.
That like you're putting that person in front of them that's going to be not only personable, but also think along the same lines. And that's kind of where we've gone to with that sort of thing. It's like a lot of brands will be like, if it's a healthcare brand, they're like, I want someone that is like a gym, like fanatic, that goes to the gym, understands that, likes to like be blah, 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 all that sort of thing. So they're going to look right, but they're also going to think right.
Right.
And they're going to also to be a true brand ambassador, you really have to get behind that brand. So we want you trialing it, like testing it, like, if that's, and liking it, right?
Yes.
Because it's hard to promote something that you don't necessarily like or even agree with. So it's a matchmaking job at that point.
Totally. I have a partnership with JB Were, New Zealand's kind of preeminent wealth management firm, and it was important to me as I went through the process of identifying prospects that there was an authentic alignment of those two brands.
Yeah.
And so it's essentially the same thing as what you're telling me, is that you couldn't get someone who clearly had never seen the inside of a gym before in their life promoting gym memberships or protein powder or whatever it might be.
No,
because that would
it's not going to be very believable, is it?
Yeah, that's right. And nor like a Bible-bashing Christian promoting alcohol shots at a place or whatever it might be. So that makes sense to me. So prior to that, and you've cleared me saying this, you were a part of the Auckland cheerleading squad.
Yes.
And founding member, I think, is that right?
I don't know about that.
I'm aging you. God,
no,
that's
not that. No.
Yeah.
And then I think we moved to the Warriors cheer team after that as well. So you've been a few cheerleaders worn a few different uniforms. They were all lycra too, I feel.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. I think they probably still are, actually.
Potentially, yes.
Exist.
Yeah.
Was there any kind of, that to me denotes a comfort in being put on display for something and also displaying something as well. So
yeah,
that
the
was
commodity there.
Yeah, yeah. Strong correlation.
Well, definitely. And also, I think it's being a dancer in general. It's like, it's kind of in that way that we're hired to portray something, whether you're doing musical theatre or whether you're doing like, a corporate event or something else, or whether you're a cheerleader as well, you're donning a uniform and you're doing a set of choreography that's like replicating, well, it was like being representing something, I guess. Yeah.
Yes.
So definitely always. And, with my career before that, I did some work overseas, modeling, and I did some promotional work overseas. So as well. So it was all kind of really lines up, really, doesn't it, in some ways?
So that lines up the next question for me perfectly. So what was the opportunity you identified in the market, and how did you get Brand Spanking started in the first place?
That's an interesting one. I guess part of it was my journey. Like, I think I'd come back from living overseas, living in Japan. I must have come back in 99. I kind of gave myself a couple of years to kind of like, have some fun and see what wanted to be my next thing, I guess. And so I did some work in TV and film. I was obviously a cheerleader. I did some professional dancing, that sort of
You
thing.
also were on a radio show. Is that
Did
correct?
some work in radio.
And more about that for half a
I
second?
think I did like a show as Virginia Slayer, the love, sex, and relationship counselor for like there was a late night show.
Virginia Slayer, the love, sex, and relationship counselor. That is amazing.
Like I definitely that was pretty funny and pretty fun at the same time. But I guess that was the hustle, right? Because like dancing doesn't give you any full-time employment, not in this country. So you had to like piece everything together to make it work.
We call it a portfolio life now.
Exactly, right? It was so much better calling it a portfolio life. Yeah. The hustle was real though. So yeah. And I guess I just decided that, and I couldn't really continue on doing this. So part of it was my journey going, I need to really settle down and do something like that's more sustainable. And that's going to mean that I can, potentially have a Monday to Friday job.
Yeah.
Obviously in Experiential, you're working all weekends and things like that. And at the beginning, I think I was working till, midnight too, you know what it's like, and trying to get it off the ground and things like that. But it was leading to somewhere as well. And then also at the time, I guess I'd done some promotional work for just a few agencies that were around. And I was like, there was a lot of that. Like send you out wearing the lycra kind of thing.
Tighter lycra, please.
Tighter lycra, more zips, yeah. Like, mush, go sell some beer. And I thought, maybe there is a way that we can represent like the humans involved in this, like the brand ambassadors a little bit better, and find work that they're really proud of doing and that sort of thing. And I guess for me, it was like having done it and experienced it, I knew how important they were for the connection. And I was like, so how about we centralize make it a company or an agency that's central on those people, building a brand team, building talent that are fit for purpose, that are like confident and are trained well, that like appropriately dressed maybe, I don't know. And that like go out armed with all those things as the best representative for a brand. Yeah. So I guess that's how it kind of got to that.
Yeah. And you were talking to a client about the prospect of doing some work for them, and they encouraged you to go and start your own things. Is that the very origin?
Client, actually. I think it was an agency that I was working with at the time, which wasn't an experiential agency. It must have been one of the bigger agencies. And Matt, who I was working with, had said, how about, you go and start your own one, and then you can you deliver that to me. This is what I need at the moment. And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, oh no, I couldn't possibly do that. How do I do that? I don't even know where to start. And he was like, well, I can help you. I can be your silent partner, for instance, and we can start this together. So I think that was my first kind of venture into partnership, and realizing that how powerful partnership is for a start, and how like the things that they're good at and the things that you're good at, it's really good when you have different even things going on there, but then you come together with ideas in the same way. So I guess you have a creative like collaboration, but then you offer different things, like different backgrounds that can lean in, I guess. So you're not competing against each other for a start. It's very advantageous to do that. And I think that was my first chance to see how powerful that relationship partnership could be. And then 2 years after that, his life got busier as well, and he introduced me to my more current partner, Jeremy, who also had a bit of an experiential agency, but doing different things. And he was like, look, you guys should meet and talk, because you're both kind of doing similar things, but different. And if you don't, I feel like eventually you'll end up competing against each other anyway. So how about you sit down and have a chat? And we just got on so well. He loves doing all the things that I hate doing. And vice versa. So that became the next partnership, which was, which kind of led to here.
Yeah. Was there like a share sale that happened in the background of Matt to
We were so little at the time.
Yeah, right.
Like both of us were so equally at the same level. It was great because all we did was go, hey, look, let's find an office together.
Right.
Like we both had potentially one, I think, person working for us at that point in time. So that's how little we were.
Yeah.
So then suddenly we were 4, and we were like, well, this is great. We're now a company.
Yes.
Like, where do we go from here? Yeah.
Is that where the name Brand Spanking came from, or is
I
that
think
something?
that was me. I think I came up with that randomly. It was on a T-shirt.
It's a
What we
great
were
pun.
looking at. I know, right?
Mm.
And then, but we did wonder at the time, like, if we make this our name, are we going to get lots of random people ringing up expecting to be spanked? Like, what's going to happen here? Like, are people going to be like, how do I get a spanking? Like, like that sort of thing.
I had a colleague 25 years ago, and her name was Rosie Rear, Rear. That was her married name, Rosie Rear. She gets an email out of the blue one day. This is back in the early days of email. She gets an email out of the blue, and it said, Rosie Rear, fancy a good spanking, eh?
Oh. She probably had not put that together either. And she was like, don't you?
Well, I think we knew there was some smart people in that place, but we lost it. It was just so good. So did you get any of those situations?
I was
Disappointing.
waiting,
So
prepared for that call, waiting for that call.
Oh.
And it never came. Like, so disappointing.
It's really disappointing. Okay.
Lost moment there.
Yeah. So Jeremy got involved in the business. What were some of those early kind of inflection points when you were going through the growth path? What were some of the kind of key wins and a couple of challenges that you had early on?
Oh, yeah. See, growth is a challenge in itself, right? So that's definitely a challenge. Like you grow, and then the work comes in, which you're like celebrating the work because now you've got this ability to deliver this work. But then you're like, oh my God, now we need to hire, and like this is our first foray into this. Luckily, Jeremy, his degree was in HR, which comes in really handy, I think, like when you are growing a team. And there was definitely fluctuations. You'd grow it, and then some of that work would go away, and then you're trying to find that balance point. And the same thing goes with your brand ambassadors. Like, you've got to have enough ready to go and do, like, to scale up when the bigger jobs come in. But then you kind of need to also find them something to do in between. Otherwise, you're losing them.
Yeah.
And they're going to go off and find full-time work or like do something else or that sort of thing. So then we kind of realized that we needed to grow to a scale that was large enough where we could keep the ambassadors busy. We could have permanent people in the office to manage them and have an actual talent team that worked on keeping those brand ambassadors always top notch, coming in the door, always hiring kind of thing, but also keeping them like busy kind of during the week so that they could like do something almost every day.
Yes.
And pay rent and that sort of thing, and not like go somewhere else and not have to like leave and find permanent work.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm always interested to know what kind of business at its core people are really in. And so I'll bring that to light for you a little bit as you ponder the question. So I'm wondering if with this business, if it was like a sales-led business, in other words, you won and lost based upon your ability to go out and win new clients and then deliver interesting pieces of work. Was it a design-based business, like a creative business, because you were creating campaigns and you were creating experiences for people? Or actually, was it like a HR, people management, resource allocation business?
Oh my God, it's all three.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, in some ways, a little bit of all three. Definitely, I think when you're working with other agencies or brands, you're pitching on an idea. So they give you a brief and you come up with a creative idea of how it's going to work. You go back in and you pitch it to them. And then you also have to deliver, right, on that. But some of our ongoing work was more like keeping a talent team always trained up. Auckland Transport's probably more like that. We have a group of people that are trained up on Auckland Transport, and they get rolled out to every different thing because that is a more long-term contract. And some of these brands, there's so much investment in the training. So you're literally like supplying people for them that are trained up on their brand, that have had so much investment put into them. You don't lose them because retraining someone else into that spot is going to be like super expensive and like time consuming as well. So it's all a little bit of all three. And then you're also kind of like going out and selling yourself, which I always would say is like the brand ambassadors are literally what's selling us. Because if people are if a brand, like if you're just like, you work for a company or something like that and you have a moment where you have a really amazing interaction with someone at something,
Yes.
you kind of go away going, oh, like my brand could do with like someone like that to promote it.
Yes.
And so then it's kind of works that way. They are your best advocates, I guess, out there in the field as well. So yeah, rather than, I don't think we'd ever cold called anyone or done any of that. Like, work would come in on your reputation, your ability to deliver, sometimes on your ability to fix problems,
Right.
because that's another thing that happens when you're working in a human element. Obviously, they're fallible. And so we can't be everywhere at once. And like, obviously, sometimes people just fall off a cliff and like, sometimes they have bad days and that sort of thing. And I definitely think at times, I feel like we were probably judged on the way we reacted to like fixing a problem more than anything else, which I'm, proud to say that we would action plan straight away. Like, do we need to put someone on a plane? Do they need to go to Christchurch? Like, do they need to like, do we have people that we can like slot in or replace, like redo, that sort of thing?
Yes.
That's always really important as well.
I've had a tiny bit of exposure to events management in roles that I've had working with events managers. And what became really clear to me over time is that a bit of it is about the creativity, the design, and getting the thing right. But actually, most of it is about problem solving.
Totally.
Because stuff goes wrong left, right, and centre.
All the time.
So there's quite a lot of that.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah. Okay. Many moving parts.
Yep.
Product, position in the market, getting people to play, logistics, getting people to places, humans
to these places in one piece, like with everything they need to like actually do.
Yeah. That was back in the old days.
Totally happened back in the day.
No doubt.
For sure. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Like there's so many logistical things that need to like play into like make things happen. And like you can't always control all of those elements. Weather's such a like one of those things. Rained off, like this happened. Flooding, when we had the floods, no one could get to a shift. Like, sorry, we can't do that. Is also and when the earthquakes happened, people were like, oh, like no one wanted to go and do a shift in a supermarket, for instance, because they were afraid that they were going to have an aftershock.
Oh, wow.
So we literally like put on hold all supermarket activations in Christchurch during the earthquakes and things like that, because they're like, oh, we don't want to put those people in that position as well. So you're constantly trying to like, kind of like, we mitigate as much as you can. Obviously, to like, oh, we've tried to think of everything that could possibly go wrong in this scenario, but you don't always know. Yeah.
Yes, and inevitably there's something which comes from left field.
Exactly.
In each case, isn't what we call it in software.
Totally. It could be a product issue. No one likes it. I don't know. Like, is there an issue with that? Like, no one seemed to want to take it. Like, no one, this, that, and the other thing.
Is that like, I'm not sure how many of those you had to have or whether indeed you'd name any brands if that was the case, but it kind of to me would be like telling someone their baby's ugly.
It's a little bit, and these people have put so much work into like bringing this product. Like, obviously sometimes it's more just a variant of it.
Right.
That's not really kicking off at all. And it's like, hey, that flavor, not working. But they also want to know that too. They're like, oh, we have 10 flavors. Let's delete these ones because they're not really playing out the way we thought they were going to play out.
Yes.
But also let's ask our audience, what do they want next? Because we'll go back to R&D and make something for you if you like. Like we've got laboratories and stuff like that, these brands. And
do research as well. Right.
Let's go and find something that like, we were thinking about these and this and this and this. And we can ask the consumer that at the time and go, out of these three, which one would you want to try? And then take that back to them and go, you need to make this one.
Okay. So business was growing well. You had presence and events and experiences across the country. And then around about the mid-2010s, you decided to go through a merge process.
We did. Actually, I think we merged around 2016 with Flux. So, he'd been around for a long time as well, like doing similar stuff. And was kind of just like a bit of an age and stage thing. We thought, well, why wouldn't we? We get on really well. Let's merge. So we merged the companies in 2016. And then I think in 2017, 18, we then bought Phenomenon, which took some time to actually complete that purchase, I think. And they were another agency who'd been around maybe 10 more years than us, like, but kind of like a little bit older, that sort of thing, kind of looking to maybe they were going to like step out of it completely. So we were like, well, why not buy them? They're much better at supermarket stuff than we are. So it gives us a little bit of an edge in that. And that was more interesting though, because rather than the merge with Flux, where Flux were just kind of absorbed by Brand Spanking, with Phenomenon, we decided to leave the brands separate.
Let's pick these up separately because they're quite different kind of processes that one needs to go through. With the Flux business, what were the things that were most important to you to establish to ensure that it was going to be the right kind of union between the two businesses, even though it was more of an acquisition than necessarily a merger? But what were the things that were the questions that you were wanting to answer before you got into that contractual relationship?
Yeah, that's interesting. I maybe didn't ask enough.
In hindsight.
In hindsight, really. Because I think we based it more on a relationship, like that we all felt like the three of us got on quite well and we could work together and there was, we all offered slightly different things. It possibly didn't play out that way, like that I'd expected in either. So, there was a learning, I think, for us at the end of the day. also I think we went into then we went into COVID not long after that as well. So
Mm.
at that point, when your company's currency is experiences and the world shuts down all of his experiences and there is no touching anybody or talking to anyone or being even close to anyone, it's like, that's it. I think that was probably the point where I had to have that tough conversation with myself and with the other partners about, is there ever going to, will there be a
Right.
company after this,
Yeah, wow.
after COVID? Because
Mm.
at that point we didn't know how long it was going to be like that for,
Yeah.
you know.
I want to have that conversation, but I just want to circle around the flux piece again. So knowing what you know now about endeavoring to pull two different brands and cultures and, personalities together,
Yeah,
what would be the key questions that you would ask?
that I
at
would
stage?
ask, yeah. Ooh. I guess potentially I would do a little bit more digging into the way I guess they did business
Mm.
in the first instance and like their value mindset potentially, if we were values aligned, more like, and more about what that expectation would be moving forward, where we were going, what was our ultimate like end game, like kind of thing, and having that conversation, what were our key roles in that would have been my questions
Yeah.
that I probably should have asked.
Yeah, it's such an important thing that I think we underestimate the value of from the outside. And what I advocate to people is that get really clear at the start of the entity or when those entities are coming together. What do you want from this personally? What do you
Yeah.
want your role to be? What
Yeah.
are you great at?
How do we fit in?
Yep.
Just like we talked about that partnership
Yep.
before, right? It's
Yep.
like they do the things that you didn't want to do, or
Yes.
they're good at the things that you're not good at, that sort of
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
Yeah, we didn't do that. We didn't have that at that point. We
Yeah.
didn't go through that, I don't
Yes.
think. Yeah.
Yes. And then leading forward from that moment, it can feel a bit of overkill on an annual basis, but at least every couple of years, I advocate for people who are in business together, business partners, or people that have a share on a share register of some form,
Mm.
is to establish clarity on your long-term objectives on a regular basis.
Yeah, and revisit that.
Yeah,
Because they
totally.
move, they
Hey, so
change.
we talked about building something that was going to make a lot of profit and we were going to hold this thing ad infinitum. Is that still what you want? Or do you want to have an exit event and get out of the operations? Or
Yeah.
do you want to go and be a monk somewhere? Or do you want to, have a ability to extract a bunch of cash annually and start a foundation?
Yeah.
It's all different.
What's like floats your boat? What do you want to be? What's your thing? And like,
Yeah.
what's your superpower as well? And
Well, all decisions involve sacrifices, right? And so I go, are we building for growth, which probably means we're not going to make that much of a profit while we're going through growth, because growth is hard and expensive, as you said, along the way. Are we building something which is going to be super, super profitable, which means we might grow a little bit slower?
yeah,
Are we building for an exit event, which
Yeah.
might mean that we don't take as much money off the table along the
because
way?
we're making it look a certain way.
Yep.
Yeah,
And we hope to have a certain point in time, which is the big bang, and then
Yeah.
we get a big check and we take that off the table.
yeah,
Are we building something that we can stay engaged and involved in the business in, so
Yeah.
it keeps on giving us a sense of purpose and meaning in the world?
yes, yeah.
Or do we want
Do we just love what we're doing? And we're
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
we just love this, doing this shit together, and like
They're all
we do this
different.
forever. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I started a business with a couple of people back in 2017, Ambit, and we had alignment at the outset. And then within 2 years, one of them had headed off in a different direction, and he wasn't very clear about it. And he wanted something very different as an outcome for the business.
Yeah.
And it started to create tension at a board level
Yeah.
because, now we had this multi-country, 40 odd people kind of raised a bunch of money kind of venture. And
Yeah.
it was this, kind of voice that was going.
that alignment's no
contrary.
longer there.
Yeah. And so we had to come back to the table to have the conversation. And it was a tricky conversation to have, but you've got to have them.
Oh, absolutely, because we're all growing and changing, and every kind of like everything that's happening to us is helping us to evolve into the people that we are.
Exactly.
Always different, right?
Yeah.
So you'd have to always sit down and talk about those things and align those things. Still aligning values, still aligning, in-game like scenarios, still aligning, are we happy doing this? Checking in,
Yeah.
are we still happy doing this?
Yeah.
Do we need to be doing something else?
Yes.
What could we be doing better as well, kind of thing. Are
Yes.
we all aligned
Yeah.
here? And I guess for Jeremy and I, we had kids at the same time,
Right.
almost like, well, he would take time out, like, because his wife was having a baby, and then I would take out one out the next year, and so it worked really well until like we were like done, kind of thing.
Yes.
So there was always someone to step in and do that as well. So that worked really well, and I guess in doing that, we were aligned with a lot of stuff where we were in our life the phase in our life, I guess, as well. So that's really important, I think, to always, you're absolutely right, to be checking in and that sort of thing.
Phenomenon. You had people that were wanting to exit the business, probably get out of the operations, maybe retirement. Was that the
That was
reason
the
they were
case,
interested?
yeah.
Yeah. How did that acquisition go?
That was a tricky acquisition, I think, because I guess I felt like in the beginning that they were just suspicious that we were just trying to get a look under the hood as such, being a competitor. And so
Calls it. He says, "I'll only look up my skirt so many times before you've got to give me a ring."
Exactly, right? Yeah. And I totally get that because it's a competitor coming in and asking to potentially take over. And buy you. So you are dubious about that and are they just going to ask a whole lot of questions, have a look, and then walk away and be like, oh, now I'm going to target these clients. Yeah, take away the secrets and the secret sauce as such. So it took a lot of time, a lot of building, I guess, that, confidence that they had in us that we were serious about doing it. So it did take quite a long time, and in that process, their situation changed a little bit. So of course that led to a different change in offering and things like that as well, which can happen when these things are quite drawn out, I guess. Yeah.
And I know you can't tell me about the specific numbers, but was the deal like cash, or was there an earnout component? How did you
No,
value the business?
because we do the same thing.
Yeah.
There was no earnout at all. It was just a cash deal because of that. Because we didn't need to kind of understand those sorts of things that much. I think there was a little bit with maybe a proprietary product that they had that they designed themselves to get our heads around that. But that was probably I don't know if we even bothered took that in the end, because we were we'll just do it our own way.
Yeah.
So it was more So it's more having it. We were kind of leading into that time of let's have a specialist that is a specialist in grocery channels, and then Brand Spanking can be a specialist in experiential as such. More like that kind of,
Yeah. Some people make an acquisition thinking that there's the addition of the new business will be 1 + 1 = 3, or that there's a business that kind of looks like us, but they're in a different sector. And then they get into that thing and they realize, oh, holy shit, this is actually a totally different business with different problems, different moving parts, and it's not at all the ability for us to apply the stuff that we know
that
well.
same thing,
It's better.
It's different.
Did you have any of that, or were you
No.
slides in, off
No.
you go, happy days?
It was pretty easy to do, to slot those two things together. And we did run them as two separate agencies in the beginning for I guess the first year or so before COVID hit. And then obviously we consolidated everything because things we were probably shrunk down to barely anything at that point in time. So everything became one office space, let that go.
Right.
Yeah, that sort of thing. And hibernation, I think they call it.
Yeah. So let's go back to that COVID story. So there was 2 partners at that stage, you and Jeremy. Was there a third?
No, at that point there was 3, but COVID obviously, with the downsizing of the company, allowed us to we just went back to 2 partners at that point.
Right.
So because we'd valued the company at next to nothing at that stage, right? So it was and then in those moments it's okay, so now we know if we're gonna try and bridge this gap, we need to start putting our hand in our back pocket and putting money into the company, and then that becomes a deal breaker for some people as well, I guess. So at that point we just went back to being 2 of us, and then it was interesting because that's when we had that come to Jesus moment. I guess we were well, this could be it for us. This could be the end of us and our partnership and the company as such. But we had one client who kind of saw us through, which was amazing, who could still do things as we came out of
Was
very
it a
much
spraying client? Was it those? No.
break from a distance. Yeah. Spritzing from a distance. Yeah. Actually, it was doing demonstrations, but they would do mirror demonstrations. So, when things started to open up again, I think it was probably the retail outlets and things like that opened up, and we were doing retail work for them. So we could give mirror demonstrations where people didn't have to touch it or anything like that. They could see us using it and showing them how it works.
Oh, got it.
So from a distance, and there would be literally tape on the floor, within the JB Hi-Fi or something like that, where they had to stand 3 meters over here and we could stand here and that sort of thing. But it gave us one, and I guess that was that one hope that if we got this one, we could slowly build up again. And it was definitely 2 years of rebuilding.
Yeah.
And in that rebuild as well, that was when things changed for both Jeremy and myself, because we were like, we don't want to go in with us being involved and being too top heavy at that point and like putting too much strain, I guess, on a company that's just rebuilding. We need to make sure that the foundation people are right. We wanted to keep all of those ones that we'd had and worked so hard and brought them through, and like so many people that worked for us were so amazing. They'd started as grads or they'd started as talent and then worked their way through the business. And there's we really wanted to keep them going and like not lose them. So we were like, how about we take us out of the equation, who are expensive, and we kind of only go in part-time and see if we can make it like grow like the foundation and keep those people going bigger. And so that's actually that was quite helpful, I think, with leading to a sale as well, because we'd not kind of like, there wasn't 2 full-time roles there for us anymore. We'd kind of gone we'd gone back very slowly, 1 day a week, 2 days a week. We're like, how about here, do this? But kind of maintained that distance a little bit as well. So I was managing director, but like only in the office like 2.5 days a week kind of, and he's CFO, doing it like from a distance as well, and not having to be like, in there all the time or doing that sort of thing.
Yeah. What were those moments of those conversations like for you when, we talk about identity being wrapped up in our businesses quite a lot. And so you were 17 years into the business by that point, massive part of your life. You'd grown up.
Huge.
What
Yeah.
were those conversations like with you and Jeremy? Was it emotional?
Oh,
Was it
so hard and so emotional, like to face those things, because you're so intrinsically and tied up in that and who you are and everything. And it's not your choice that this is happening in the world or anything like that. It's kind of happening to you, and you're trying to like, I guess, adjust and like, that sort of thing at the same time. So it's so hard to navigate. And you're having those challenging each other to like, well, what would you do? And like, what else would you do? What could you do? What would you want to do? That's another one as well. It's like, I'm pretty sure I got into like this in the first place because I didn't like working for anyone else. So do I really want to go out and work for somebody else? And what that feels like, and to sit with that, I think, and become comfortable with that it's a challenge. Absolutely.
Quick tangent, but it's relevant. I've just written, I do a weekly journal blog article, and I just wrote it that the headline was, "You're more like Jack Reacher than you think that you are," and heavy out. So the notion is that for most founders, like 2/3 of founders start a company because they want to have autonomy.
Right, yes.
And autonomy is freedom, right? And so I talk about freedom as being the one shared value that we all have and the most important thing. And then I extend the metaphor slightly to say, Jack Reacher, for a lot of men particularly, they don't know it. But the reason that I reckon Lee Child wrote probably one of the greatest self-help books of all time, 100 million copies sold, is that what we see in him is this complete freedom. He's got no phone, no address, no bank account, no nothing. Right? And he
just toothbrush, I remember from watching it.
Exactly. And then he has a mission, which he makes up at every single episode, which is always kill the bad guys.
Yes.
Who is the competition. So like you put those things together, and it's actually quite like the entrepreneurial.
It totally is. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So you started the conversation with a desire to get some autonomy. You have this thing which happens, which is outside of your control, which is the COVID thing. You're looking into the abyss thinking, oh God, we're screwed. This is it. This is over. And then you have this glimmer of hope, which is the one client, which we can keep going. We can keep turning up to work. We can keep the lights on. Probably a bit of relief from the government as well, of course.
Yep, for the people that were involved.
People have got to be paid. They've got to put food on the table, etc. And so I always think about things afterwards as being, they happen for us for a reason. Those things that happen. And so looking at it through that lens, it sounds like it was a case of you guys going, let's design a different business than the one that we had going into COVID. Yeah. Is that what you make
Absolutely.
In hindsight?
Yeah, we really thought about it differently. Remember, we'd been through financial downturns before. Like we had the crash in 2008. When everything went soft in was it 2010? I think that's when we had the earthquake, that sort of thing. All of those impacted us as well. But it wasn't so catastrophic that it drove a change in our behavior or our thinking, I don't think. We were just kind of like, we need to make more money, right? Because it's a downturn, that sort of thing. We needed to be a little bit more smarter. I think in some ways we learned to make change really fast in a downturn, I guess, and things like that. To scale down, to not just live in hope, because it's like you need to be match fit all the time. And sometimes being nimble and lean and mean is quite good, because that leads you to, then you can scale from there going forward.
Yes.
But COVID wasn't like that, because it was so much new territory. So it was like that pivotal moment, I think, where we were like, well, we're actually going to rebuild slightly differently, because of we're slightly different because of it.
Did you maintain what proportion of the people that were there pre-COVID were post as you were redesigning the business?
Yeah, well, that's interesting, because Phenomenon was quite difficult, because that went from 6 to 1.
Wow.
Yeah, like literally overnight, with that sort of thing. And then they were amalgamated into our office, and there was no office even at that point. No one was going in. But we managed to keep most of, I think, the Brand Spanking team. We probably lost a couple, but the rest, like the core, was still there. Key people to us are always like the talent side of the team, the talent management side of it, the recruiting, like they recruit, that sort of thing. And of course the client service part of it, who manage the client side. Yeah. So those two things were like key. So it did. Yeah. We were lucky. We were able to keep as many as we could in some ways.
Yeah.
But different. It was different moving forward with all in one.
Did so I have this very strong, like, visceral memory of when I started my first business, and we obviously knew each other back.
I remember that.
And you probably remember the very first office that was around.
I do remember that office.
It was rumpy as all hell. It was very basic. I remember the desks breaking. And then we went to the slightly
overcrowding on the desks.
Oh, massive! I think I stood on one of the desks one day, which is why it broke. Let's be honest. We're celebrating something, and then we moved into the upstairs space, which was a bit nicer, and then we moved down over here, down the corridor, and then ultimately down into here. Now, this in those days, especially, it's still a nice office. It was a very, very marked shift between the very basic, very rustic kind of office with the second or fourth hand furniture that we'd bought. And, a lot of the people were still there, right? So Lydia and Julian and Nathan and the core of the team was still there. And the really interesting thing was, when we started in here, the people that we were hiring, because we went through a growth phase at that stage, had no connection with the very humble origins.
Yeah.
And there was this kind of attitude of, this company's doing really well and they've got plenty of money. And whilst that may have been true, it wasn't the way that we actually ran the company.
No, and it wasn't in your ethos or your values at all, because you bootstrapped it right from the get-go.
As did you, right? And so did you, pre-COVID and post-COVID, because there would have been like cost savings measures, there would have been, metrics that you had to implement around, client management, or would it be, get more clients, you would have had to go back into growth mode to bring more clients on board, all those sorts of things.
Fear, people were too scared to engage with people anymore as well. So there was a lot of overcoming this like mental fear of like, oh no, who would want to do that? And also everyone had been kind of sitting around doing nothing. So no one wanted to work. So building up the like brand ambassador side of the business was a real challenge after that, because like getting people to like want to actually come in and work again. They were like, oh, I don't know whether I want to touch people anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm getting money for free. Yeah, such a weird mentality. But how did you navigate and drive that behavior change for the team and for the people that you were bringing into the business?
Oh, the new people that were coming on board. And it's like, this is the thing with culture though, it changes every time someone's like comes in, right? We've been so incredibly lucky, I think, in the way that most of the people that work for us came through the business. So many people started as talent and then came on board, or potentially started as a grad that we'd hired into the client service side of the business. Maybe they'd had a little bit of experience in another agency and then they came to us. When you work in an experiential agency, you learn how to do literally everything, but it's quite hands-on as well. So it's not like you can just do one thing. Everybody has to kind of muck in as well and do everything. They kind of learn, and it's better if you learn from the ground up, because at one point, like sometimes you're just packing in like, I don't know, like 3 pallets of like product into the warehouse in some ways, or you're putting up together a stand, or you're measuring a space because you're going to do a build in a mall or something like that. It's quite hands-on as such. And so like people had to come through it, to feel it, to touch it, to be part of it as well. Otherwise, we found that if we hired them, I guess, like diagonally or whatever, or like from a different, company that they'd come in and work for us, that they were a little bit like, oh, hang on a minute, like
Oh, I
You
don't
want
build
me to go and
things.
pack in pallets of what?
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So there was like when we have a problem, we all get together and solve it.
Yeah.
Everyone's involved in the creative process kind of thing. And sometimes when you came from a bigger company where they just did one thing, they were like, hang on a minute, I have to do all these things. But the problem with having your people so well versed in so many different parts of the business is they're often poached by other companies as well, because they can do a lot and they've touched on lots of things, not just one. And so often they'd be like getting poached by other agencies and that sort of thing as well, or going to brand side as well. But I think one thing that I like is that many of those people have come back and worked for me again. So even the GM that we have presently started off as a grad, worked with us for multiple years, then went away and did her own thing for a little bit, had some kids, and then came back, and
Yep.
so now, and so it's like that. So I like, she gets it.
Yes.
Yeah. So
So gratifying to watch, follow, and also assist people through the course of their career.
yeah,
I think it's one of the most underrated, most satisfying things of being an entrepreneur is that you can help others kind of grow and evolve as
yeah,
individuals, as people.
I fully agree, and
Mm.
it's one of the most proud of things, that I have like thinking about it. I go the people.
Yeah.
Like being part of their life, allowing them to be part of like allowing me to be part of their life and trusting me to make these decisions and for them to be part of that team and everything like that. It's
Yeah.
like very proud, I
Mm.
guess, of that,
Mm.
of them. Still follow them all when they leave and that sort of thing as well.
Yes. I reckon 2026 is perhaps the most important year of the new millennium. This is powered through artificial intelligence. There's a tectonic shift going on in business right now, and I think you have an opportunity to capitalize on it. I've written a white paper. It's available on my website, joshcomrie.com, under the resources section, completely free of charge, and it'll give you some thinking and some resources and some how-tos in this rapidly changing world. Enjoy. So let's talk about the exit. It's relatively recent. So the deal closed in the last few months, I think.
It did at the beginning of February.
Yeah, okay, that's just
Mm.
weeks ago. So how long was it last year, 2025, that you started to think about, should we take this out to market? What was the process that got you to the point of going, it's probably time? What was your mindset?
It's a part of it is definitely an age and stage thing
Mm.
for both Jeremy and myself. With where our kids are at the moment, I think we're becoming very aware of them not being around for much longer, I guess, in some ways, that we have a finite time with them, want to be with them, and to be in their world and that sort of thing as well. So that's part of it, I think. Also, I guess some parts of it, we feel it like we were probably like, well, have we run out of steam? Have we got any more in us? Where's the juice? Like, does it need somebody that brings in that passion and drives it forward? Because we love what we've built, but are we really the people to take it to into the next stage as well? So it's like, have we become bitter and twisted and jaded, from all of these experiences that happen to us, good and bad? But was it enough? And is that what the company needs? And I guess in some ways we both thought maybe that's not with us. Maybe we're not the best people to like move it forward. Maybe it does need someone who to really drive it into its next 10, 15, 20 years, as well. And so I guess we had a moment where we talked about that and thought, wow, actually maybe we're both on the same page here and this is an option as well. So there was a number of little things that happened to bring us to that kind of moment. We also I had a friend that I was on the marketing, doing the marketing awards with as well, who had moved out of agency and into ABC, I think it was, which is obviously who sell companies as
Yeah,
such,
business broking.
business brokerage. And I was like, well, he seems like the only person that I would think to sell an agency is someone that's had experience in an agency themselves, because they understand how they work, they understand how they fit in the wider picture as well, and they understand that they can also be standalone too, I guess.
Yeah.
And so it was having him and knowing that he was there, that maybe he would be the right person. So it all had to line up, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of change, I think, in agencies right now. There's a lot of changing with obviously the global groups all becoming quite, lots of change out there. So it seemed a good time when there was like, maybe someone would be interested in either picking us up as a part of their group, or a standalone person taking it on.
So you brought on the advisor, the broker. At what point was this? How long ago?
That was probably November, I think, last year.
Wow, this is really recent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe we started talking about it September, October, and then things kind of got rolling a bit.
Yeah.
Valuations happened.
Yes.
That sort of thing.
So what was the process like from there? Did they go out to a database? Did they, do some proactive marketing?
I think
for you?
that's exactly what happened. I think they valued it. We looked at the options, went out to a database, and then literally straight away we had some offers come in.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's remarkable that some people have this horrendous, this is not an indictment of the way that you handled the process with the prior crowd that you acquired, but sometimes it can take 12 to 36 months. I had Neil Miller on the show recently, and second time around, he's an annual guest for me, probably New Zealand's top M&A lawyer. And he's got a deal that's been going on for over 3 years right now. And others have this unbelievable process. I had Rick Agrawal from the Meatbox just a couple of weeks ago, and he was a very similar process. So assigned the advisor, and then had 3 offers within like a fortnight. And then they'd close the deal a week later.
Crazy, right?
Acquire it, and then it took only 3 months for the DD. So you guys sound like a pretty similar kind of time.
It's similar. And of course, like in my mind, I had expected it to take a long time because that's what happened before when we were acquiring, right? I was like, oh, this could be really drawn out. Like maybe it will never even happen.
Yeah.
We won't get to that number that we want, that sort of thing. But it was almost, just who knows, dumb luck, or people are looking for a turnkey business right now. I don't know,
Yeah.
So that happened straight away. We looked at 2 offers. They were quite complicated. There would have been earnouts and that sort of thing. And there was going to be a lot of negotiation to go through. And then one just came in and it said, happy with that number. Here's a 1-page offer. No earnout.
Cash. Right. Amazing.
Yeah. 4-year restraint of trade, which makes sense in this kind of, thing as well. So we were, okay, we're great.
I mean,
very happy.
You've set up to this point. It would be remarkable if that was something that would have bothered you about having a restraint of trade, because you're like, hold on, we've done our time in this industry, nearly 25 years. Why would we go off and set up down the road under?
But they do.
Yeah, of course they do.
They
do.
It's
classic in
actually. God, yeah. No, we've definitely had that experience before as well.
Right.
Where, as soon as they tried to narrow the restraint of trade, we got suspicious at that point.
Yes.
That kind of put a roadblock in. Like that wasn't for us like this time, but was previously.
Yeah.
And then of course they literally did go out and work for a competitor after that as well. So yeah.
Interesting.
So so I don't blame them. That's fine.
So what was the multiple?
Well, it's pretty standard for an agency, a small agency, to have a multiplier of 3, which is what we settled on. I think, it depends on how much, if you're looking at that long-term revenue, how many contracts you have in play, how many long-term contracts you have in play. We had 2 contracts, but it was hard to tell like where one was going to end up, but it was like a 3 + 1 + 1. So it was a good timing because we're in our first year of that.
Yes.
So that worked out quite well. So, but I think you look at all of those things and go, what that multiplier could be for a small agency. It could be anywhere between 3 or 5. And then the bigger you go, the more like substantial the agency, the bigger it, like that gets more into the 6, 7s. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, given it's happened so recently, you've brought in your photo album because you had to clear out your desk as those things happened. And when we spoke last week, you were on Waiheke taking some personal time out. So what is the intention from here, Viv?
See, the intention is, it's quite funny because I love talking to you about this because I know you've been through the same thing. It's like our inability to sit still and to just fill our time with like, inherently problem solvers and like doing things and that sort of thing. And I'm trying to sit with it for a bit and just really process, the last 23 years, or maybe even before that, because I've literally been working since I was 16. So it's like all of that time in business, I just kind of want to sit and kind of like be comfortable with that, the good and the bad, the learnings, like the everything, the acceptance, I guess, of that, and have a little moment there. So my firstly, I just want to kind of have a couple of months to do that, I think, and I think it's only when you're really accepting of that and bored, does the next idea kind of like, bubble to the surface as well about where you want to be and what you want to do?
I couldn't agree more. My experience was that with my first business, I walked out of the door and then I was so accustomed to being busy that I just made myself busy.
Exactly.
And it was on the October the 1st that essentially I was no longer in the operations. And so I went overseas for a couple of weeks, but I came back and I filled my calendar up to Christmas. And I remember saying to my ex-wife at the time, got to Christmas time and I'm like, oh, I'm really looking forward to a holiday. And she goes, what? From what? So Viv,
Yes.
there's an alternative Viv Bryant, and she has a totally different career path. And it wasn't the starting off life in a portfolio phase, and then starting an experiential brand agency. But this career is deeply, deeply satisfying to her. What is that career?
Oh, this ulterior,
Yeah, this
this
alternative
universe career.
career question.
Gosh, what would that have been? Well, actually, I'd have to go back to look at like who I was growing up, I think, when I was little, about what my dreams and hopes were then. I think I saw Swan Lake when I was 2, and from then on it was to be a ballerina.
Oh, all right, okay.
Yeah. But then, we realize how hard that job is as we study ballet all the way through until you're 16, and then realize like, oh my God, am I really cut out for this? This is so tough. And this, my mother would remind me, this career only lasts till you're 34, Vivian. And then it's like, then what are you going to do? And so I think I wanted to, then I was like, by then I was in school, I was quite good at art. But then I was like, how do you monetize art? Maybe, but get into tech drawing or like that sort of thing. So there would have been an architect in me somewhere waiting to like happen. But I feel like at some point my maths teacher said, your maths is probably not good enough for that. And that was popped a pin in that bubble. But at the end of the day, I'm still very excited to get back to being an artist. And it's something that I've always maintained a little bit personally for myself throughout. Obviously dancing is art, but after that I did graphic design for a few years after school, and like I would always want to go back and explore art in a different level. I don't know what that medium would be, but it could be all different mediums, but I'm very excited about that person that like wanted to do that as well. So that's one of those things out there, potentially, that we can take a look at.
I love that. I've done a few retreaty type things, meditation, growth kind of retreats, and they have this segment which is about creating some art. And I collect, but
you're an avid collector of art, I think.
Avid collector, yeah. I collect, but I haven't done a lot of the creating. And what I've found is that if I just let go of the judgment of myself, then actually something kind of interesting and kind of cool can come out. I've landed on doing dioramas is what I'm kind of circling around at the moment, which is building these little worlds.
Yeah.
And so kind of creating things with things that I pick up at op shops and bits of bark
Oh,
and
amazing.
that sort of stuff.
Oh, cool.
It's quite satisfying because my hand, back to that kinesthetic
Yeah.
awareness, I'm not very good at putting this onto the paper, and I think we get stuck in the world of art being drawing or
Well,
painting.
that's what we think of art is, but it's not. It's all sorts of other things, right?
Different mediums.
So I think you have to explore it, and you'll be exploring it because you're looking at art and you have an eye for art and you have taste, obviously, with the things that you follow, or you have your own taste.
Yes.
It's in the eye of the beholder. So it's like, but there's all these different realms of art as well.
Yeah.
There's
a nice entry point into this as well, which is something called Paint and Sip.
Yes.
So pay like $150 and you go to a place and you get like a glass of wine, like 6 glasses of wine, and then you have a meal, and then you do some painting.
Oh my God, I love it.
Paint by numbers and you fill in the fees, and it's
Oh my God.
it's really cool.
And you have someone leaning over your shoulder going, oh my God, that's fabulous.
Yeah. Sit down.
Oh my,
Fill me up.
God, why have you not explored this out more? Yeah.
So-
I think where I do ceramics, they have wine and wheel, which I imagine when you're drinking wine and on the wheel could be very, I don't know, it's a ghost moment, that one.
Like drinking and driving.
Yeah.
On that note, Viv, I really look forward to seeing what the next steps are for you. I encourage you to take that time out to get bored and to just totally relax and connect with the full self again.
Lovely.
And thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute treat. Love talking to you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for listening to the show. If you've gotten this far, I reckon you've probably enjoyed it. And there's more available for you in the form of my book, 2 Commas. It's available on my website, joshcomrie.com, I've done an Audible version, which is on Amazon.com, and there's a Kindle one kicking around on either of those resources as well. I've had some wonderful, unsolicited feedback from early readers. They describe it as being punchy, clear, helpful, and actionable. What it's not is a guide on how to sell your company. You can go to ChatGPT for that. It's more insightful, experiential-based, and a bit of a blend of psychology, philosophy, and what it takes to build something meaningful, and what all that means afterwards. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you grab yourself a copy.